7-minute video clip attached. Michael Kirchner said to come to them and give them a chance to make things right. Okay, so I'll be the first in line. Below are my comments and questions, with accompanying emails as evidence of his deception and total participation in the financial fleecing of ICC members. MK could have taken that opportunity to finally be completely honest and own up to how he has spearheaded the financial operations of the ICC. I do think he felt bad in some instances, but only because he was caught, as he was strategically and selectively open. MK hasn't even touched the tip of the iceberg of what he has been complicit in, and in many cases authored and pushed on his own. There are endless emails about paying off the debt of many paid staff ministers and down payments for homes, etc. The common denominator for all of these people is that they are paid ministry staff, meaning it is their full-time job, and they have no other responsibilities outside of their church job. Meanwhile, the hard-working members are struggling to pay and support all the ICC WSL ministers' large salaries, when they thought most of that money was going towards missions. In just the few emails that are attached, you can see it clearly spelled out that most of the money was not going towards missions, but for down payments for homes and to pay off ministers' debt, and wherever the core leaders and KIP thought it should go to. I don't know if any of the ICC leaders realize this yet, but there are hundreds of people willing to bring in evidence. For example, people that went on mission teams that arrived to the mission field only to find out that all of the mission money that was raised suddenly disappeared. And then they were told that they would have to go get jobs and support themselves in an unknown foreign country. Or endless other examples of members that were told they would be reimbursed for personal money they put into various ICC needs or rental deposits, etc., that were never reimbursed. While the paid staff can request large chunks of money for things like paying off debt, and presto, they get all the money they need. We have so many examples. I am only sharing a few. These emails reveal that MK has given down payments to so many ministry staff members for homes, or to pay off their debt, etc., while they simultaneously twist the scriptures to shake the average members down for every penny that they have in their pockets. Most of these members are also working full-time jobs, or trying to go to school or raise families. But the ICC leadership has expected more of their unpaid, hard-working members than they have of their own ministry staff who do not have real jobs. In so many of the emails, it is very clear to see the commingling of funds and the constant taking of mission money and spending it on whatever they like. In most of the emails, they are not generated by KIP, but by MK emailing KIP to get his permission on each expenditure, as clearly they were authored by MK. I believe that MK lacked the courage to stand on that stage and own the monumental extent of what he has done. Although some of the staff leaders like Jason Dimitri and Lujak came to MK, he is the one that agreed to their financial requests and then pursued the execution of the money transfer, no matter how large the amount. MK has fostered this environment of taking care of the core staff and their financial needs, but not the rank-and-file members who are being fleeced, coerced, and guilted into giving under compulsion. Do they have any idea how many people are in financial ruin or were literally starving to death in their organization? Or living in 2-bedroom apartments with 9 other people? That is what is truly heartbreaking. And this was not a requirement or request from God Almighty. It is unscriptural and was forced upon them by many of the ICC leaders, which is proving to be a man-made agenda. There are infinite emails proving the grand scale of what ICC leadership has done, and what MK and many of them knew, but they also forced others into lying to keep everything from coming out into the light. Then, when someone like Ron H. comes forward with the truth, they retaliate by threatening him with a legal pursuit, or to have him arrested, and attempt to financially starve him out, etc., if he brings things into the light. Wasn't MK the one who actually fired Ron personally? Where is God in any of this? And why are you all so afraid of the truth? Therefore, I don't think MK was up on the stage because he had this spiritual epiphany. I think he was up there because he got caught and was dragged into the light, where he was forced to show some sort of openness. And this is evidenced by the fact that he only shared a portion of the truth, while simultaneously blaming KIP. But Kip McKean, who MK blamed for all of the wrong choices and misdeeds, did not generate these emails. MK did. Now, Do we believe that Kip is the founder, instigator, and perpetrator of this type of cruel, hypocritical, and deceitful financial environment? Yes, we do. So maybe that's what MK should have said. Maybe he just should have owned the fact that he was afraid of Kip, and that's why he decided to spearhead the financial mismanagement of the ICC in all of the ways that he did. And how convenient that the only people who MK blamed and outed are now RCW members Jason Dimitri, Lou Jack, and Kip. All of the threats in the world will not keep the truth from coming out one way or another, because God is in charge, and He will make sure of that. We're not going to post the rest of the emails as of yet, mostly because we're going to give MK a chance to come forward and try that again. And while he's at it, MK owes an apology to Ron Harding for slandering him all over the world. Some of MK's comments have gotten back to us. These comments did not come from Ron. They came from others that instinctively knew that what he was saying was not true. Can you see how ungodly it is to try to punish and silence and slander the only person that is trying to tell the truth? It only further proves that the ICC is still trying to hide things. According to the scriptures, these lies and intentional sins disqualify them from entering through the narrow gate. Therefore, Michael, in the email chain examples below, do you see how alarming it is that you are asking Matt Sullivan to go to Will Pena and Chris Klupek and challenge them on their generosity and to demand to know exactly how much they are worth? After Chris almost died on the operating table, you have no right to ask him what his medical settlement was. We are sickened by this, and it's shameful. And unfortunately, it sounds like Matt Sullivan was more than willing to lie on your behalf and tell his world sector that there has never been a financial impropriety in the ICC. And people have told us that Matt Sullivan and his wife Helen are independently very wealthy, so why are they taking such a fat salary from the people when other members are giving so sacrificially and cannot even pay their own bills? And we have one more question for you, Michael. Were you lying when you said that you went to every single one of Kip's porn girls and personally told them what Kip had done to them? You know who they are because you guys have a copy of all of the files from Kip's computer. You and the ICC leadership claim to be doing all of this for God. So hopefully one of these days you will figure out that God really cannot be mocked, and He will continue to drag everything into the light, with or without you. Good morning from a very rainy La, praying you have an amazing trip to India this week. Thank you for your email response to the financial plans for the movement. I'm copying Kip as you may have an opportunity to discuss while together this week in India. Your work and efforts to take care of your world sector in planting 2 Operation Eagle churches in 2022, and 2 more in 2023. Transitioning the NE to Corey running 3 conferences in very logistical challenging circumstances is commendable. Without your leadership, we may have failed in securing the ERC funds. We are very, very grateful for everything you have done. As for the Kernans, they are in a unique situation in that they no longer lead a church and thus do not have the financial resources to receive their compensation. Jason is being very generous in absorbing 75% of their compensation in 2023, while Missions is picking up the other percent that left a need to figure out how to pay for their travel and expenses. The best solution was to take all the USA Tribe churches, including the newly planted ones, and take a fair share based on the number of disciples in each church to budget for these expenses. With a base of 17 churches, the budget is more evenly distributed, with LA still picking up a substantial amount, in addition to paying the Karens compensation. As for developing a travel budget for you, your world sector can be a consideration. The question becomes, is that too much for your churches this year? At the December 2022 COTC meeting, Kip charged anyone in debt needed to reach out and let us know. Your 2 strongest leaders and right-hand couples, the Turners and McGee's, are both in debt. There is a fair amount of work to do in both these cases. Even as Marcel and Todd depart for India tomorrow, they will further incur expenses ATL cannot cover, and they will be placing on credit cards. I met with them last week and had a great but difficult Bible study and talk with them. Side note, as I am typing this email, Marcel just texts me saying they have secured some debt consolidation and found a way to have $4,000 of almost $20,000 of their debt forgiven. I will recap the meeting in a separate email. Have not been able to tackle the McGee's yet. Here are some thoughts that I think we should consider, pray, and discuss. Those who are rich in the present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but put everything for our enjoyment. Command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. I share this as I believe there are two situations that, while delicate, need to be more assertively addressed. I find Will Peña to be very intriguing. Having spent time with him in Mexico City recently, he is a man with a lot of ideas, may I say a fair amount of worldly thinking. While I have no idea or validation, what is he worth? $510 million, $25 million, $50 million. I understand he leads a region of the Miami church, and his wife continues in her medical profession field. I do think we need to encourage complete transparency, generosity, and sacrifice monetarily. I think we need to know. Secondly, Chris Klupek has been through so much hardship with the surgery from December 2020. Having listened to them back in July that they basically thought he was going to die on the operating table is heart-wrenching. They shared some, but not all the details of their settlement. We indeed want their needs to be met and to receive what the legal system deemed appropriate. Again, are we seeing the full transparency, generosity, and sacrifice monetarily? We need to be incredibly sensitive but faithful that both Will and Chris may be able to do more, maybe much more. As I have been working with Martin a full year newer on their estate and plans to sell their share of the ranch, there is $30,000 your efforts. Funds, though still in the works and the amounts not yet determined for many of the sages churches might be used to. 1 need for travel and expense. 3 higher balance budgets, be used locally in each church. I realize my response is a bit extensive. I mentioned that Sharon and I are planning to visit Florida sometime between the end of January and February. We would go to Orlando to spend time with Kim McKean, but would like to travel to Miami to spend some time with Helen and you, and further discuss some of these things. Please let us know when you would be in Miami, and we could set a time to visit you.
He chose wrong, and he rejected the right. And what were the consequences of that? He was influential enough to take 1/3 of God's angels out of heaven. And Jesus says in Luke that he saw Satan fall from heaven like lightning. And so our decisions are eternal. They have consequences. And it's all about, administratively and law, to sum up, what we desire to do is choose right. And the heart of it and the intention of things, I want to address a couple things tonight. One, there's this discussion about this discretionary budget, also known as KIP's budget. I named it the discretionary budget, and I'm sorry. That was not a good label. It was the wrong label. We changed the name a few years ago, but that doesn't matter. What's out there is out there, and we got to deal with that. And we've changed the name actually a couple of times, and Raul's landed on, this is the Kingdom Emergency Fund. And I want to walk you through this. We developed this fund about 6 or 7 years ago, and for emergency needs. And we are a family. We're a large family, and we're spread out all over the world, and you can never anticipate every need that's possibly going to be out there, even though we try as hard as we can. And Jesus, he expects us to take care of the family. That was the heart of what we set up and why we set up what we set up. And just to share a couple of examples, Mickey and Lily Ngungu, they oversee Central Africa. Mickey has cancer. Lily has some complications. They're an older couple in their 70s. They've had to travel to India. They'd never get the health care that they need in the Democratic Republic of Congo in Kinshasa. They've had to travel. We've supported them. We've helped them. They're doing great. They're an awesome couple. They're the couple that brought us deep, deep down in your heart. And Mickey's an amazing man. There's a couple by the name of Felix and Priska. They led our Bujumbura church. There was a fire. They lost everything. We had to help them. And so this was the heart of what we developed and why we developed it. And the purpose was to set a sum of money aside at the beginning of the year in advance. And I still believe, and I do believe, it's the responsible right thing to do. It absolutely is. And another thing that it helped us do is better plan our finances. We put a burden on the church. 2017, the fall missions was 11 times. 2018, it was 9 times. This past fall, at a movement level, we didn't ask for a fall missions. And so we were being responsible and taking that pressure off the disciples, planning in advance to try to take care of people's needs. And we've lowered those missions. You know, the majority of the funds, where did it go? Well, it went to supporting church plantings. It went to helping transition people, in particular our ministry staff. And when you think about it and look back on things, we planted 76 churches in the past 4 years. That stretched the movement. And we've paid a price with all that. And there needs to be a time of strengthening and healing and working through things. And, you know, the bottom line, when we think about this, there's just too many plantings, too many people moving around, and it really stretched what we needed to do. I want to share about one couple in particular, Princeton and Joy George. I didn't realize this. We asked them to move literally 9 times. I couldn't actually keep track of how many times we moved them in the ministry in less than 9 years. And it put a burden on them. And we had to help and correct some things. And we don't get it right all the time. And I'm sorry that we don't. But we've got to take care of the family. And there's a lot out there. And, you know, an email surfaces and said, it says just add $20,000 to San Francisco missions. You know, a lot of decisions were made in certain things and in certain ways. That one in particular, when we think about it, because we're taking criticism, we're payments for down payments for homes made. It's not illegal. We transfer and relocate people. We're just trying to help establish things. That particular one, that's wrong to add that to the missions. It's wrong. Yeah. That was a decision between our former leader, the leader of that church, and that administrator. What didn't involve missions. We weren't aware of it. But things are going to happen, and we want to put before you, if you have questions or reservations in your heart, you better speak up. And we please come to us. Give us a chance to explain. And that'll help your heart. And I think the reality of it, where we made mistakes, Kip made decisions independently. He didn't include this group. And that was wrong. And it allowed him to do things that just weren't right with the heart of the fund. There was a lot of good that was done, more good than not. But there were some poor decisions. These are judgment calls and bad judgment. And I think for me personally, I didn't agree with a lot of them. You know, you can believe when you pull out the scriptures, people will respond. And man, there's things we should not have done. It hurts people.